Let me start with something really simple. This really isn't about money. It's about the relationship you have with it. Now, most people don't think of it that way. They just feel a constant low level pressure around money even when things are going well. You have no stress. You're not in a state of panic. You just have a sense of always needing to stay on top of things. And that's what I want to talk about today. You see, money tends to sit quietly in the background of things. It's not always something you're actively thinking about, but it's there. In the back of your mind, influencing how you make decisions, what you say yes to, and what you hesitate over. It shows up when you check your bank balance or when you're about to commit to something. Or you pause for half a second longer than usual. And that's not because anything's wrong, it's because part of you is always keeping track. Now the problem is that once you've lived like this for long enough, it becomes your new normal. You stop questioning it, you just assume that that's what being responsible feels like. And what's interesting is that it doesn't go away when things improve. You can be earning really good money, you can be really stable in your life, and you can be doing just fine, and yet you still feel the background noise of alertness, not because you're ungrateful, but because it's an old habit. Now, a lot of people don't realise how long they've been carrying this habit around. It might go back to when money was really tight, or when you had to totally rely on yourself at an early age, or when you watched other people be careless about money and you decided you never wanted to be like that. So you learn to stay on top of things. You learn to plan, to think ahead, and to make sure nothing caught you out. And again, none of this is bad. It probably helped you build what you have today. But the downside is that once your nervous system learns this mindset of stay alert as it keeps me safe, it keeps doing it even when the danger isn't there anymore. This is where money stops being neutral. It isn't just being a tool, it becomes loaded. It starts to mean safety, stability, and breathing room. And when money means those things, it's hard to ever feel fully relaxed around it, because at its core, it starts to feel like it's holding life up. So even when nothing's wrong, you're still constantly checking. You're still running the numbers in your head. You're still thinking about what could possibly change or go wrong, or still making sure you've got all the bases covered. From the outside, that looks like responsibility. From the inside, however, it can feel like never being off duty. A lot of people assume that if you just earn more, that feeling will disappear, but that's not the case. If anything, it can get worse, because in your mind, the more you build, the more you need to protect. The more commitments you have, the more people rely on you, the more consequences your decisions seem to carry. So you don't relax into your success, you manage it. And you can't always explain that to people, because on paper and in their eyes, you're doing really well. So you end up in this strange position where you've achieved stability, but you don't experience it. I call this the invisible ceiling. Not a ceiling on your income, a ceiling on your peace of mind. A point where life looks better than it feels, because your internal setting hasn't caught up with your external reality. You're still living like everything depends on you being switched on. And the tricky part is that this ceiling is built out of good qualities, responsibility, conscientiousness, and care. That's why it's hard to notice it. It doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like being a good person, but over time, it costs you. Now, the cost isn't dramatic. It shows up quietly in how hard it is to enjoy what you've built and achieved, in the way you keep moving the goalpost, in that strange guilt when things are going well, as if ease needs to be justified. It also shows up in when you start second guessing your own decisions, even small ones, because part of you is always trying to prevent a future pain. And again, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just carrying a system that was designed for a different chapter of your life. So when people say, I need to fix my money mindset, they're often not talking about being more positive. They're talking about being tired. Tired of carrying the weight, or always feeling like you have to stay on top of things. Feeling like rest has to be earned. But this isn't about becoming reckless. It's not about spending irresponsibly or pretending risk doesn't exist. It's about recognizing that your internal relationship with money might be stuck in management mode. The shift required isn't dramatic. It doesn't come from big breakthrough moments. It comes from noticing when you're bracing for an imaginary impact, when you're scanning for a trapdoor that doesn't exist, when you're holding tension in your body for no immediate reason, and importantly, not punishing yourself for these thoughts, but just seeing them for what they are. Because at the end of the day, awareness is what gives you choice. Over time, you start to relate to money differently. Not as a test you have to pass. Not as a measure of whether you're doing life right. Not as a thing that decides whether you're allowed to relax or not. But more like what it actually is. A resource that supports your life. You still care, you still plan, and you're still responsible. But you don't carry it like it's holding up your identity. And this subtle shift changes everything. Decisions get clearer, your mind gets quieter, you stop confusing pressure with progress. If any of this feels familiar, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken or behind where you think you should be. You're not failing at mindset. You're simply at a point where the old way of coping no longer fits the life you're living right now. That's not a problem to solve. It's a transition to recognize. If this is resonating with you, you might want to stay with this kind of conversation. I share these reflections regularly, not to motivate or teach, but to help you make sense of the quieter parts of building something meaningful. If that's useful, you might want to subscribe. No pressure, just if it feels like the right space for you. If you take nothing else from this message, take this. Your relationship with money isn't just about numbers. It's about safety and responsibility. The identity you built around being the one who can handle things, and the invisible ceiling you may be hitting isn't about what you can earn. It's about what you can allow yourself to feel. At ease, you're enough, being at peace. Those things take practice too. You don't have to force it. You don't have to fix yourself. But you can start noticing the moments where you tighten up and gently ask whether you still need to. That question alone is powerful because it starts off a different relationship with money. One that still respects responsibility but doesn't require constant tension. If this kind of reflection helps you think more clearly about you, your work, your money, it would mean a great deal to me if you like this video. It helps build this channel and get my message out there. I share these conversations regularly, slow, honest and grounded, for people who are building something and want to do it without losing themselves along the way. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I hope you found this useful. And remember, stay grounded, stay growing, and keep leading from within.